What's up guys, Carrie from HomesteadHow here, and in today's video we're going to show you how our outdoor wood burner works. Let's go take a look. It has a nice big huge firebox. You can fit large round logs all the way in there. It goes about 4 feet back. The way this works is, from this point up, there's a huge water tank. It holds about 400 gallons of water. And we can see that right here. This is what we use to test the water level. You want the water level to be right up here, which it is currently, and you can see it through this tube. What happens is you heat the water up with the fire. The water gets heated super hot, and then it gets pumped through 2 PEX tubes that go right underneath us and over to the house. And here we have 2 pumps. These each pull about 100 watts, so about a 100 watt light bulb. Both of them are hooked up, so the water gets pumped through here, through this pump, through this insulated PEX tubing, and then all the way through. And there's one point of entry over there, and then the other one is way back behind there to our other furnace. We have a 2-family here, and there's a furnace back in there. And then there's another furnace over there. I'll show you those in a second, but basically once we turn the outdoor wood burner on, these pumps stay on the entire burning season. And they're constantly pushing that water through there. We do that to make sure that they don't freeze. The water doesn't freeze in the pipes. And we also do it just because the entire burning season, it's running with hot water going through it. One of the really interesting things is, I'm gonna light this fire, light it up tomorrow. That same fire that I lit that one time is going to burn for 6 months straight. I'm not going to come out here and relight the fire over and over again. We just constantly stoke the fire and put more wood in there, and there'll be you're not going to always open it and see flames going in there. Sometimes it'll just be some hot coals, but they'll continually reignite throughout the day. Now how does that work, you may ask? Let me show you. Right here we have a little controller. I don't know if you can see that, but right now it's reading 51 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is the water temperature. Right now it's at 51 degrees. And we don't have any heat going to it. So it's just going into the house. The water gets pumped into the house. It goes over the furnace. We have been running propane just for a little while to hold us over before we could light the fire up. So that keeps it from freezing. If we were ever to leave for, say, like a week, say we wanted to go on vacation for like a week, people ask, well, isn't it going to freeze? Like, what do you do when you leave? If you leave the pump on, the water's still moving, so it's less likely to freeze that way. But also we can turn the propane on in the furnace as a backup while we're gone, and the water will go through the furnace. The hot air from the propane heated fire while we're gone will then go through the water that's going through the furnace, and it'll prevent it from freezing. So this right here, this water temperature, it comes factory set, and you can change it, but we leave it at 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And what that means is this system will regulate that temperature of the water. And how that works is through this damper on the door here. Damper opens and closes throughout the day based on the temperature up here. So we have this at 170. If the temperature of the water goes down, say it goes down to 160, this door opens back up, it lets air back in, and it heats the fire back up again. So this door right here, you can kind of see it, it's actually open right now. Let me put the camera down there and get you a closer look. Right now, because the temperature is at 51 degrees, this door is open. So you can see daylight through there. There we go, now you can see daylight through there. There's a door right here. Once it hits 170 degrees, that door will shut, won't allow any more air in, and the fire will last much longer that way. So this thing regulates the water temperature by opening and closing that door throughout the day. So that kind of shows you a little bit of overview of how this works. It's just basically a big water tank. The water gets heated up, it gets pumped through into the house. Next, I'm going to take you into the house and I'm going to show you how this heats the furnace, and more interesting in my opinion, how it heats our water. It's kind of a cool little setup. There's a little picture of it here. This is kind of our setup, but I'm going to take you in the house and show you exactly how that works right now. So let's go. Okay, so now we're inside, and this is what it looks like where the water comes inside from the furnace. You may be wondering, what is this big black thing here? This is a thermostatic valve. It's kind of cool. It checks the temperature of the water coming from the furnace, and if the temperature is less than 170 degrees, it stops the water from going over this way, which leads to the furnace, and it reroutes it back to the furnace to reheat again. It basically recirculates it until the water gets warm enough. Once it's warm enough, it says, okay, you can come in now and go over the furnace, and then it allows the water to go through this way into the furnace. So this pipe goes back here, and then it goes up here, over this way, and then down and into this. So this here is basically, it's kind of like a radiator in your car. The hot water flows through this, throws through all these little tubes, and then we simply have to turn the furnace on the fan on, and that air from the furnace blower blows throughout the whole house, and it's all heated from the hot water going through these pipes. So we've got a little temperature gauge on here. As I said earlier in the video, I'm turning the furnace on tomorrow, so we're right at about 50 degrees like it showed outside. Hot water coming through these pipes, air getting pushed through the hot pipes and heating the house. When we're not using the outdoor wood burner to heat the house, we have, let's pull this off here, and in this little window there's burners that are propane fired. The propane lights up, those turn blue, and that heats the house. So if we're not using wood, we still do have propane as a backup. And if we were ever to leave on vacation or go on a trip for a couple days and we didn't want that water to freeze up, it probably wouldn't freeze up because we'd leave the pumps on and it'd still be moving, but we get some really cold winters here. We could turn this furnace on, say put it on 50, 60 degrees, and then the hot air from the propane will blow through these tubes and keep that water from freezing as it recirculates all the way around and back to the furnace. All right, so I showed you one of those tubes goes up to the furnace, and there's another PEX line that comes back here, and it feeds over to our water heater. This is an electric water heater, and when we're not burning wood, it uses electricity, and we have a decent sized electric bill because we go through a lot of hot water. Let me take this off so you can get a closer look. There we go. So basically, this tube is water heater water only. This tube contains water from the outdoor wood boiler. So it's basically a big tube over a little tube, but the waters never interact or mix with each other. They're just touching each other. So what happens is when the outdoor wood burner is on, this large tube fills up with water and it gets pumped from the bottom through here up through the top. It's just constantly circulating hot water through here, and then inside that we have the cold water that's coming out of the bottom of the water heater. But the cool thing is there's no pump or anything pushing this water up because, as most people know, heat rises. So the cold water that's in the bottom of the water heater comes in contact with the hot water from outside and it rises up. We don't need any pump or anything. It rises up and then it goes back through the top of the water heater. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to put this insulation back on here. So that heats the water. Now the next question might be, why do we have two water heaters? Well, this may be a little overkill, but it's a safety feature. This is this is a backup secondary tank, and this is the actual electric water heater that we use. And this is sort of like an overflow. And the reason being is this water could get so hot that it would exceed safety standards. On an electric water heater, you can set the temperature so that it doesn't get too hot so you don't scald yourself. On this, it could just keep heating it and heating and heating and get hotter and hotter. So the water in here could be very, very much hotter than the water in here. So the water comes out of this sort of overflow wood burner tank and it goes through this controller where we can regulate the temperature. It's a mixing valve, so we can mix in some cold water with some hot water and then send the temperature over here so that it doesn't exceed scalding hot water. And that's what this does here. Without this, it would still work. It would just be that we could have boiling water coming out of the faucet. So it's a safety feature. All right, so right here is where the electricity comes in through a standard water heater. And when we're not burning wood, we're using electric, there's power coming through here and we're paying a lot of money for that power. But when wood burning season comes, there's a circuit breaker that leads to this power, and I turn it off. And all wood burning season, we have no electricity going to this electric water heater, and we're relying solely on the outdoor burner. So we have no electric bill coming from this water heater anyway, which is significant because I've got 4 girls plus my wife. We have 5 females in the family, and we use a lot of hot water. Right here is our thermostat setup. We have 2 thermostats. This is the thermostat we use when we're not burning wood. It's got heat and it's got cool. So it's got air conditioning, and then this is basically propane. So this is our propane thermostat. When we're burning wood, we use this thermostat. It only has heat. And the only thing this does is it turns the fan or the blower on the furnace on. And it'll keep that blower on until it reaches temperature. So if we set this to 80 degrees, the fan blower will stay on until the room gets to 80 degrees, and then the fan will turn off. The nice thing with this is, if I didn't have this, and we were only going on propane, I would leave this much, much lower than I would this, because we'd be burning through propane. I'd be thinking, are we running out? Are we going to have to purchase more? With the wood, it's less significant. While it's true we are going to have to use more wood if we keep that temperature cranked, it's not as significant as the amount of propane we'd be using similarly. So we keep the house nice and toasty when we're using our outdoor wood burner.